I don't know where to begin, maybe just by saying that everything changed, and I didn't even see it coming. Or maybe I did, but I refuse to believe it. Either way, I'm sitting here, staring at my phone, trying to process what just happened, and I need to get this out before it drives me crazy. For context, I've been with Emily for 7 years. We were the perfect couple, or at least, that's what it seemed like. No red flags, no major fights, just, solid. I thought we had the kind of marriage that other people envied. But recently, I started noticing small things. Tiny shifts, like cracks in a wall that were easy to ignore, until one day, they weren't cracks anymore, they were gaping holes. It started with her being distant. Nothing overt, just little things. She'd get home from work, throw her bag on the couch, and immediately dive into her phone. Fine, whatever, maybe she had a rough day, right? But then, she started locking it whenever I walked in. At first, I thought nothing of it. People have private messages, I get that. But the more she did it, the more it felt like she was hiding something from me. And then came the mood swings. 1 minute, she was cold, like a brick wall. The next, she was all over me, acting like nothing was wrong, like she was trying to compensate for something I couldn't even put my finger on. Every time I asked if something was bothering her, she'd blow it off. I'm just tired, or, work has been stressful. But here's the thing, I don't believe that anymore. Something was bothering her, and whatever it was, I wasn't the one she was turning to. I tried pushing it aside, hoping it was just a phase, but the more I ignored it, the worse it got. And I think deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to face it. But eventually, life has a funny way of showing you the truth. Whether you're ready for it or not. The discovery came out of nowhere, and yet, when I look back, I see the signs that should have been so obvious. I don't know if it was fate or just pure dumb luck that led to me finding out, but the moment I did, everything changed. It started on a Friday night. Emily was supposed to meet her friends for dinner. She told me earlier that week that she'd be out with a few colleagues, nothing unusual. But this time, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt restless, like I was on the edge of something I couldn't see. I told myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I went to bed early that night, figuring she'd be out late. Around 11 p.m., I woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. At first, I ignored it. But then it buzzed again. And again. And again. By the 4th time, I gave in. I rolled over and grabbed the phone, half expecting it to be a group chat or something work-related. But the message preview on the lock screen caught my eye. It was from a contact I didn't recognize, Avery. The message? Can't wait to see you tonight. It's been too long. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the growing suspicion gnawing at me, or maybe just plain curiosity. Either way, I unlocked her phone. And that's when everything fell apart. The messages weren't what I expected. They were full of inside jokes, flirtation, and plans. They were meeting up after dinner, something about finishing what they started last time. I kept reading, my hands shaking, the blood rushing to my head. It was like everything I'd been sensing for months clicked into place in an instant. I couldn't breathe. My heart was hammering in my chest as I scrolled down, the sinking feeling in my stomach getting heavier with every message. I sat there in the dark, staring at her phone, the weight of the realization hitting me. Emily, my wife, the woman I trusted, had been lying to me. She was cheating. And I had no idea how long it had been going on. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, but I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, the reality of the situation crashing over me in waves. I went over everything in my head, every time she'd come home late, every time she'd acted distant, every little lie she'd told me, all of it. It felt like the last few months had been nothing but smoke and mirrors. And then it hit me, she was supposed to be out with her friends tonight, right? But she wasn't. She was with him. I wanted to confront her, but part of me wondered if she'd lie to my face, if I'd just end up looking crazy and paranoid. But I couldn't sit with this feeling. I needed answers. I waited. I waited for her to come home, and when she did, it was like time slowed down. She opened the door, all smiles, like everything was normal. She didn't even seem to notice the change in the air, the tension between us. She dropped her bag by the door. "Hey babe, I'm home." Her voice was light, like she hadn't just been with someone else, like she hadn't spent the night in another man's arms. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Who the hell is Avery?" Her face went pale. I saw the shift in her eyes before she even spoke. She'd been caught. And the guilt was written all over her face. But she wasn't sorry. Not yet. What? She stammered, but the lie was already hanging in the air. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? I threw the phone on the coffee table. You don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Can't wait to see you tonight, it's been too long. Sound familiar? She froze. There was a moment of silence, her eyes darting around the room like she was looking for a way out, like she was trying to figure out how to wriggle out of the trap she had set. Finally, she spoke, her voice shaky but still defensive. "Okay, fine. I was meeting with him, but it's not what you think." My mind screamed. It's exactly what I think. I could feel the anger building, but I kept it in check. "So what, you think I'm stupid? You think I wouldn't notice?" "No, that's not it. It's just complicated, okay?" She started pacing around the room now, pulling at her hair, like she was trying to find the right words. "I never meant for it to go this far, but Avery and we just clicked. I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to hurt you." Her voice wavered, but it didn't sound like guilt. It sounded more like self-pity, like she was trying to justify everything. I couldn't believe it. "You never meant to hurt me?" I echoed, feeling the weight of those words. "You've been lying to me for God knows how long, sneaking around behind my back. And now you want to tell me it's complicated?" She was silent for a moment. And then she did the worst thing she could have possibly done. She tried to cry. Real or fake, I couldn't tell, but it felt like an act, like she was trying to get me to feel sorry for her. "I was just so confused," she said, choking back tears. "I didn't know how to tell you, and Avery, he was there for me when you weren't." The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood up, unable to look at her anymore. "You didn't know how to tell me? You didn't think the right thing was to be honest with your husband? We've been together for years, Emily. And this is what you do?" She reached out, but I stepped back, not wanting to be touched. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she repeated, almost desperately. But I couldn't hear it anymore. "You never meant to hurt me?" I echoed, feeling the weight of those words. "You've been lying to me for God knows how long, sneaking around behind my back. And now you want to tell me it's complicated?" She was silent for a moment. And then she did the worst thing she could have possibly done. She tried to cry. Real or fake, I couldn't tell, but it felt like an act, like she was trying to get me to feel sorry for her. "I was just so confused," she said, choking back tears. "I didn't know how to tell you, and Avery, he was there for me when you weren't." The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood up, unable to look at her anymore. "You didn't know how to tell me? You didn't think the right thing was to be honest with your husband? We've been together for years, Emily. And this is what you do?" She reached out, but I stepped back, not wanting to be touched. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she repeated, almost desperately. But I couldn't hear it anymore. I spent that night in the spare bedroom, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of Emily crying softly on the other side of the door. I could hear her voice, muffled, broken, pleading for forgiveness, but all I could think about was the betrayal. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that text from Avery, "Can't wait to see you tonight. It's been too long." I couldn't shake it. It was burned into my brain. I didn't sleep. Not at all. My mind kept racing, replaying the conversation, her excuses, her lies. I wanted to be angry, but what I felt was hollow. Empty. My entire life had just shattered, and I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. The next morning, Emily knocked on the door, her voice tentative. "Can we talk?" I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I wanted to say. I was angry, yes, but mostly I was lost. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about everything, the years I'd given her, the trust I'd built, the belief that we were solid. And now, it was all a lie. When I opened the door, she was standing there, eyes red from crying. She looked smaller somehow, fragile. But I didn't feel sympathy. Not yet. "Listen," she began, her voice shaking, "I know I've hurt you. And I'm sorry. I am, more than you'll ever understand. I was confused, I messed up, but I swear I never meant to hurt you." "Then why did you do it?" I shot back, my voice cold. "If you didn't want to hurt me, then why did you lie? Why did you keep it from me? Why didn't you just talk to me?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She just stood there, looking lost. I could have said more, I could have kept going, but something in me snapped. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep fighting for a marriage that wasn't even real. "I need to figure out what to do next," I told her, the words coming out flat. "But I can't do this with you right now." There was a long pause. She took a step forward, her eyes pleading. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "I don't know if I can forgive you," I interrupted, the weight of those words crushing me. "And I don't know if I even want to try. This is something that can't just be swept under the rug." I couldn't even look at her anymore. I walked past her, feeling the tightness in my chest growing with every step. I needed time. I needed space. And most of all, I needed to think, about what I wanted, about what I deserved, and about what kind of future I could have, without her. The door slammed behind me as I walked out of the house, leaving her behind. "I need some space," I said, before turning on my heel and walking out of the room. I couldn't stand to be near her. I didn't want her touching me, speaking to me, looking at me. All I wanted was to be alone, to figure out how to even begin processing this nightmare. The days that followed were like a fog, blurry and distant. I didn't know where to go, or what to do with myself. My friends and family tried to reach out, but I didn't have the energy to talk to anyone. The only thing I could focus on was the fact that my entire life had just been upended, and I was left holding the broken pieces of something I didn't even recognize anymore. I spent most of the next week staying with a buddy of mine, just some space away from the house, from Emily, from everything. But no matter how far I went, the pain followed me. The betrayal was everywhere. I'd close my eyes, and I'd see her face, that expression she had when she told me how confused she was. It felt like a slap every time I remembered it. I didn't want to talk to Emily. I didn't want to hear her voice, hear more apologies that I didn't know if I could believe. But the guilt kept eating at me. Part of me felt like I should have been more understanding, more patient, but then the other part, the angry, broken part, was furious. She didn't deserve my understanding. She didn't deserve patience. She betrayed me, and nothing could change that. I went back to the house a few days later, but only because I needed to grab some of my things. I was trying to get the space I'd asked for, but it felt like every time I stepped into that house, it was another reminder of how much she'd taken from me. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It just felt empty. She was there when I walked in. She looked up from the couch, but when she saw me, she didn't move. "I don't want to argue," she said quietly. I didn't know what to say to her. There was nothing to say. I didn't want to hear more about her mistakes or how confused she had been. I didn't want to hear that she was sorry or that she loved me. The truth was, I didn't know if I could believe her anymore. Not after everything. I just need my stuff, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, my hands shaking as I packed a bag. There was a long silence. Then she finally spoke again, her voice small. What happens now, then? What do we do? I stopped for a moment, my heart racing. I wanted to yell. I wanted to tell her that what we did didn't matter, that there was no coming back from this. But I didn't. Instead, I just shook my head. I don't know, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But I do know that whatever this was, it's over. I can't fix this. And I'm not sure if I even want to try. The weeks after that were a blur. I moved into a small apartment, just enough to get by. It wasn't much, but it was mine. There was something oddly comforting about the emptiness, no lies, no deceit, no pretending. It was a fresh start, even if I wasn't sure what I was starting from. I tried to keep busy, throwing myself into work, catching up with old friends, but the loneliness was suffocating. Every time I came home, it felt like something was missing. The silence echoed in the apartment, a constant reminder of what I had lost. I couldn't even escape it when I was out. My phone would buzz, and I'd see Emily's name flashing on the screen. She texted me daily, sometimes with apologies, other times with questions like, "How are you?" or "Can we talk?" I couldn't bring myself to respond. One evening, a few weeks after we'd separated, I got a text from a mutual friend of ours. A guy named Mark. He'd been friends with Emily and me for years, and I always thought of him as someone I could trust. "Hey, man. I know things have been rough, but I think Emily really needs to talk to you. She's been a mess since you left." I read the message a few times before replying. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to just keep moving on with my life. But another part of me, one that was still tangled in the mess of everything that had happened, felt guilty. Maybe it was because I missed her, or maybe it was because I was still holding on to the person I thought she was. So, I agreed to meet her. Not for reconciliation. Not to get back together. But to get answers, real answers. To hear her side of the story, even though part of me wasn't sure I wanted to hear it. We met at a coffee shop the next day. I could barely look at her when she sat down across from me. She'd lost weight, her eyes were puffy from crying, and she looked fragile. But none of that mattered. What mattered was what she was going to say, and if I could even believe it anymore. "I'm so sorry," she started, voice low, almost breaking. "I know what I did was unforgivable, and I've hurt you in ways I can't even explain. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that it wasn't about you. It was never about you." I could feel the anger bubbling up in me again, but I bit my tongue. She wasn't justifying it. She was trying to explain it, and for the first time, I actually listened. "It was a moment of weakness," she continued. "Avery was there when I felt neglected. But that's no excuse. I shouldn't have done it. I never meant to hurt you." A part of me wanted to throw the coffee in her face and walk out. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she destroyed me. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at her, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do with this. "You should have come to me," I said quietly. "If you were feeling neglected, you should have told me. We could have worked through it. But instead, you chose to betray me. And now, I don't know how to move forward from that." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I know. And I will live with that regret for the rest of my life." I couldn't answer. Not right then. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. I didn't know if I even wanted to. "I just needed to say that," she said, almost pleading. "I needed you to know that it wasn't about you." There was a long silence between us, and for the first time since the whole thing started, I felt an inkling of closure. Not that I was ready to forgive her. Not that we could ever go back to what we were. But it was a step. I'm still not sure what happens now, I said, standing up. But I don't think I can be around you anymore. Not like this. And with that, I left. I just wanted to check on you, she said softly. I hope you're doing okay. I nodded, the lump in my throat rising. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I was just done. I'm okay, I said, and for the first time in months, I actually meant it. We stood there for a moment, neither of us knowing what to say next. It was the most peaceful I'd felt since everything went down. I think I've finally come to terms with everything, I said, finally. And I hope you can find peace too. She nodded. I hope so, too. And with that, we both turned and walked away. Life after that was different. The world kept spinning, people kept living their lives, and somehow, I kept moving forward. But I wasn't the same person I was before the affair. In some ways, I was better. I'd learned a lot about myself, about my capacity for resilience, about what it really meant to love and trust someone, and about the importance of self-worth. It wasn't easy. There were days when I felt like I'd never escape the shadow of what happened. When I met new people, I found myself second-guessing everything. Could they be trusted? Am I setting myself up for another heartbreak? I thought I was being careful, but sometimes, I wondered if I was just too cautious, too afraid to fully invest in someone again. But time has a funny way of healing. Slowly, I began to let people in again, though not in the same way I had before. I learned to establish boundaries, to be upfront about what I wanted, what I needed, and what I wouldn't tolerate. I found a new appreciation for my own company, too. I didn't need someone else to complete me, I was whole on my own. A year passed. I'd started dating again, cautiously, keeping my expectations low but hopeful. I wasn't looking for a replacement for Emily. I didn't want that. But I was ready to open my heart again, in a way that felt healthier, more balanced. One evening, I met someone. Her name was Lucy. She was funny, smart, and kind, and something about her felt right in a way that surprised me. We clicked immediately, but I wasn't rushing into anything. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes I'd made with Emily, where I ignored the red flags, where I let myself get swept up in the idea of a perfect love instead of paying attention to the reality of the person standing in front of me. Lucy was patient, understanding. She didn't rush me, didn't push me to move faster than I was ready to. We took it slow, but I could tell she genuinely cared. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe with someone. Not because I thought they could never hurt me, but because I knew I had learned how to protect myself, how to stand up for what I needed. It was a relief. Not just because of Lucy, but because of the person I had become. The person who could love again without losing themselves. The person who wasn't afraid of getting hurt, but who was ready to trust again, with open eyes. And then, one day, months later, I heard from Emily again. This time, it wasn't an apology. It wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It was simply a text that said, "I'm happy to hear that you're doing well. I hope you find the peace I couldn't give you." It was a final acknowledgement that we had both moved on, in our own ways. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt grateful. Grateful that I was okay. Grateful that I had found my way back to happiness. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. It was enough just knowing that I had come out on the other side stronger. And for the first time in a long time, I realized something I hadn't been able to see before: I didn't need her anymore. I was finally free. Looking back, I know I'll never forget the pain of what happened. It's part of who I am now, part of my story. But it doesn't define me. What defines me is how I chose to heal, how I chose to learn from the experience, and how I decided to build a future that's better than anything I ever imagined. If you're going through something similar, my advice is simple: take it one day at a time. It won't be easy, and it's going to hurt like hell. But in the end, you'll come out stronger. Trust in yourself. You're worth more than the lies and the heartbreak. And even when it feels like you'll never move on, remember that you will. You'll find peace. You'll find yourself again. And that's worth everything. A few months after I'd moved on, I found myself reflecting on everything, how far I'd come, how much I'd changed, and how painful it had all been. It wasn't just the affair itself that had affected me, it was everything that came after. The months of confusion, the emotional roller coaster, the doubt about my worth, it had all been so draining. But as time went on, I realized that it had also taught me things about myself that I never would have discovered otherwise. I could look back now without feeling like I was falling apart. I wasn't angry anymore, at least not in the way I used to be. That anger had shifted into a quieter understanding that some people aren't ready for what you have to offer. They're not ready to love you the way you deserve to be loved, and sometimes, it's not about you at all. It's about their own insecurities, their own inability to give what's needed. I also realized how much I had lost because of the affair, not just trust, but a part of myself. For a long time, I had based my happiness on her, on our relationship. I thought love was supposed to come from the outside in, but I'd learned the hard way that true love had to start from within. Only when I learned to love myself could I even begin to open up to someone else without fear of losing who I was. I'd become my own priority, which was a shift I hadn't anticipated. I started to make decisions based on my happiness, not out of fear or insecurity. That was one of the most powerful things I learned, the strength to stand on my own, to be okay with being single, to find fulfillment in my own life. And the relationship I started with Lucy? It wasn't perfect, but it was real. We moved at our own pace. No rushing, no pretending. Just two people learning about each other, slowly, patiently. The scars from my past still lingered, but I knew that they didn't define me. I was willing to take a risk on love again, not because I thought it was my only way to be happy, but because I had nothing to prove. I was already whole. I wasn't looking for redemption, not from Emily or anyone else. I was looking for peace, and in the end, I found it. I found it in the small moments, in the quiet days, in the new relationships I was building with myself and the people around me. One morning, after a few years had passed, I woke up to a message from Mark, the friend who had reached out to me back when everything had exploded. He said Emily was doing better, and she had remarried, had built a new life for herself. He was happy for her, he said, and hoped that I was happy, too. I sat with that message for a while, just thinking. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just relieved. It was good to know she had found her own path, just as I had. And for a brief moment, I felt genuine happiness for her. That was the last time I thought about her in any significant way. I was no longer haunted by the past. It was over. We were both over it. And that was exactly how it should have been. I guess the takeaway from all of this is simple: no matter how much pain you go through, no matter how shattered you feel in the moment, there is a way forward. Healing isn't linear, it's messy, slow, and sometimes you feel like you'll never get out of the hole. But you will. You will find yourself again. Don't let anyone else's actions dictate your worth. You're stronger than you think. You'll heal, and you'll come out on the other side with a life that's even better than you could have imagined. If you found yourself in a similar situation, just know that you're not alone. Keep going. Keep living. Your story isn't over yet.